Welcome to My The Asshole Podcast. Let's get into it. Welcome to My The Asshole Podcast. Let's get on into today's Tuesday episode. Woo, do I got an action-packed episode for you guys today. You want to know why? Because we're talking about the Love is Blind Season 9 reunion, as well as we'll go over some scenarios. I'm going to try to go through this as fast as I possibly can, so that way, we're not drowning onto it too much. All I'm going to say is, ya boy, don't miss. Okay? That's all I'm going to say is, ya boy, don't fucking miss. Everything, and I mean everything, that I talked about last week on last week's episode for my reactions and recap or whatever on season 9. If you haven't seen that episode, last Tuesday episode for last week, we did I did the season 9 recap reaction or whatever, and that was pretty much from like when they got into the shared living situation to the weddings. And honestly, everything that I said in that video was spot on. Fucking spot on. So we'll go through it a little bit, and we'll talk about some bullet points and things that stood out to me on the reunion. So we'll start with Jordan and Megan. There wasn't really too much to say about that. I mean, Megan moved on hella fast, bro. Hella fast. Like, the moment that they broke up, she was already going out on dates with other dudes. I'm like, God damn. You know what I mean? Like, bro, she moved quick. I was like, shit. But, like I was saying about her when she was saying, at the end, she was just like, oh, I don't know if I'm going to be a good mom and this and that. And I was just like, I disagree. If she had her own kid, she would give that kid the world and she would love that kid to death. And guess what? She had her own kid. She had her own baby, and guess what? She's a great mom. She's given that kid the world, and, she had a son, and, she's given that little boy the world. And I knew that that's what it was going to be. And that's truly how I felt in that situation. And, she was just like, like, now she is a mom. She kind of sees herself like, yeah, I was kind of maybe overreacting when I said that. It was a very emotional day and this and that, but and then it was nice that Jordan kind of cleared up a little bit about, because I guess she felt some type of way about Jordan being like, I do regret her, introducing her to Luca, because it makes sense though. It's like, bro, how am I going to introduce this woman to my son and be like, oh my God, this woman's going to be in your life and she's going to love you and care about you, and then I come back to you a couple weeks later talking about, oh yeah, that woman that I said was going to be in your life and love you, yeah, she's gone. You know what I mean? Like, that can really fuck a kid up, if I'm being honest with you. It's to a point where, it might give him abandonment issues. It might make him feel like, was I the reason why, she didn't want to stay right? You know what I mean? You never know with these kind of things. You never know. And that's why, I agreed with Jordan when he was just like, yeah, because, at his age, he needs stability. Stability is a big thing for him right now, and so, I completely agreed with that, you know what I mean? But that was all really with them. I think they split up very amicably, if I'm being honest with you, and, they're just kind of doing their things, living their lives. And so, then that takes us on to Patrick and Casey. The big thing that stood out with Patrick and Casey was the fact that, yeah, they called her out about the whole, what she said with the production team, where she was just like, oh, I don't think I can like get my feelings or to grow with him, and I don't think I can find him attractive and all this and all that. And Patrick was just like, bro, why don't you just say sorry? Like, why are you doing everything in your power to not say sorry? You're doing everything but apologizing. Like, what the fuck, man? Like, this is your platform. This is your time to apologize for what you said. You know what I mean? You're over here sitting here, you're capping through your fucking teeth like, oh no, it wasn't that. And, everyone tried to say that it was that. I did love Patrick. I did care about him. I did want to be with him. And it's just like, no, you didn't. Because we know that after you guys got back to Denver, you ghosted the nigga. Like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? You ghosted him, bruh. And then and she's just like, oh, I reached out to him the moment I got back. Like, I texted him the moment I got back. But once he wanted to talk about what happened, you were just like, oh, I'm not ready for that conversation. So you just didn't write him back and you ghosted him. Like, come on, bro. That's crazy to me. So I don't think you actually loved him and cared about him. And if I'm being honest with you, she was kind of getting exposed left and right, for just being a little dude hopper and being a hoe. I ain't gonna lie. Because she went from Joe to that Brendan dude, because, obviously Joe wasn't feeling her no more. So Joe was just like, I ain't feeling this no more. But she was being crazy and being like, oh my God, I really care about him. And why did he just leave me? Blah, 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 blah. And then obviously when that Kate girl was talking about, oh yeah, I went on a few dates with Brendan and then we went to a pool party and all of a sudden he was just all over Casey. And it's like, no surprise. Because, Kate, you're not that hot. Like, let's be honest here. You're just not. You're not as pretty as you think you are. Like, let's be straight. You're kind of a big girl and nobody really cares for that. Like, let's just be honest here. Like, sorry. You know what I mean? Like, if they had to choose between Kate and Casey, yeah, they're going to choose Casey. You know what I mean? Like, come on, bro. Let's just be honest here. But, Casey was being a little hoe and she's being a little dude hopper. You know what I mean? If I'm being honest with you.
She belongs to the street.
I ain't going to cap, But yeah, so, once she finally apologized, they were able to finally, get on the same, same track here. And everything was good and everything was squashed. And obviously they played that little shitty basketball game. I don't know why that was on there. And then we get into Joe and Madison. They did not grill Joe the way I wanted him to get fucking grilled. And I'm so pissed off at that. And I think it's a simple thing of Madison is still into Joe, if I'm being straight. I won't lie to you. I do think that she's still got a thing for him. And it was made apparent to me when she was just like, oh, you walked me to my car and then we made out. Because Joe was on his high horse. I ain't gonna lie to you. Man, Joe was swinging his penis. I won't lie to you. He was sitting there and he was just like, oh, yeah, it's just one of those things where it's just like, we just fought and fuck, we're that couple. Yeah, the sex was great. We fucked. It was great, Like, dude, it was just on his fucking high horse. It was crazy. And I'm just like, this man can't be stopped. Like, what the fuck, And then obviously the bullshit with Casey where they were just like, oh, so we heard you were dating somebody, and Casey's just like, oh, well, yeah, it was just this guy, it was just a dude. And they're like, oh, is he here right now? And she's like, oh, well, yeah, I guess so. Like, bro, we already knew it was Joe. You know what I mean? Like, we already knew it was him. And we knew it because Madison went onto a podcast and spilled the whole beans about it, that after the tux and dress fittings, Madison didn't know about Joe's crash out or whatever, and so they went to a bar with some friends and all that kind of stuff. And obviously some people from the pods were there, and Casey was there, and Casey had her hands on his chest and was just flirting away with him and stuff like that. And then they broke up the next day, and apparently they broke up off camera before they broke up on camera. And I was like, what? And this was confirmed by Madison on the reunion. And she was like, he broke up with me a day before we broke up on camera, is her exact words. And I was like, what? So you're telling me that Joe sat there, and this was obviously Madison's words as well. So Joe sat there, didn't tell Madison about his crash out at the tux fitting, and then went out with her, pretended like none of that happened. His plans to break up with her, his plans, or his crash out at the Tux thing, she didn't know any of that. And all of a sudden, he was, all getting close with Casey, and then they break up that night. They were supposed to break up the next day, according to Joe. Joe was like, oh, well, I was going to break up with you the next day. But since obviously everything that happened with Casey, Madison was feeling some type of way. So when they got home, she was like, Joe, what the fuck? Why are you letting Casey all up on you? You were like blatantly flirting with her, this, and that. And then Joe kind of spilled the beans and was just like, oh yeah, see, look, I don't even want to do this anymore. Blah, blah, blah. The tux fitting, I crashed out. I didn't want to be there anymore. I don't want to marry you, blah, blah, blah. And so then they had to reenact it and do it over again on camera. And the real reason why Madison was crying is because she was embarrassed that she had to do it on camera. That's why she was crying. That's the reason. She wasn't crying because Joe broke up with her. She was crying because she had to do this on TV, which I'm like, girl, I feel for you. I would have told Netflix no. Oh, I would have told them no. I'd have been like, fuck you, Netflix. Fuck you. I'm not about to sit here and get broken up with just so you guys have it on camera. No, fuck that. Why she agreed to that, I don't know. That's crazy to me. That is some crazy shit to me. The fact that they broke up and Joe was already planning to break up with her the next day. I'm like, nigga, why even go out with friends and all this kind of stuff? And then, Madison was even just like, oh yeah, you sat there in front of my friends talking about, or letting me talk to them about like, oh my God, I love this man and I can't wait to marry him and this and that, knowing you were going to dump me. Like, that's crazy. Joe is wild, bruh. Joe is wild. But again, I still think that, Joe was on his high horse because Casey and Madison, I feel they still got love for the nigga, man. Yeah, I don't know what it is. Man might be slinging some mad meat, or he just got something going on that we don't know about. I don't know. I have no idea. This man he's got it. He's just got it. I don't know what it is about him, but he got it. And so, and like I said, that's why I think, him and Madison they were making out and shit when he walked her to her car. And, that's why Casey was jealous and mad the whole time because that Avery girl he went with that Avery girl to the pool party. They weren't dating at that time, allegedly. I don't know about that. I saw a clip of that Avery girl talking about it, and she was saying that they had just started dating, but I don't know. That's conflicting, obviously. So, because obviously they were trying to get a timeline of when Joe was seeing all these girls. You know what I mean? Was it a thing where you broke up with Madison, then you got with Casey, and then you got with Avery? Or was it a thing where you were with Madison and then you were kind of with Casey at the same time, then you broke up with Madison, then you got with Casey, and then you didn't really want to be with Casey no more, but you didn't break up with her just yet. You were with Avery in the middle of being with Casey, and then you broke up with Casey to be with Avery, like the overlap type shit. And it made sense because, again, if and I wish I would have saved that TikTok that I saw of her doing the little interview. I'm sure she was on like a podcast or something like that. And the girl she was talking about it. It was the Avery girl. She was talking about it. And she was like, yeah, they were talking about the pool party. And then she was like, yeah, we had just started dating at that time. But that's not what Joe said. Joe was like, nah, we just went as friends. And, I didn't date her until like 3 months later. And I'm just like, I don't know about that, my guy, because that's not what she said, but I don't know. Take that one as you will. Look it up. Do your research. But yeah, that was crazy to me. I'm like, bro, Joe was kind of wilding. I ain't gonna lie to you. Joe was wilding. Okay. Then we're going to get into Anton and Allie, if I'm being honest with you. I called it. I was dead spot on. his homeboy's girlfriend was just being nasty. That's really what it was. She wanted her little 15 minutes of fame or whatever. She wanted to be on the show, or she wanted to be a part of it. She wanted to stir up some drama and trouble and all this bullshit. And that's what she did. That's exactly what she did, and, Anton was pissed about that. He was just like, bro, because it wasn't brought up. Allie never brought this up. So Anton didn't know about her reservations and upsetness about the whole strip clubs and partying and doing all that kind of stuff. He didn't know about that. He just assumed, she was upset about, him drinking all the tequila and all the beers in the fucking refrigerator. And having Patrick over, and she didn't know about it or whatever. That's what he thought she was mad about, and I'm sure to some degree she was upset about that. But what she was really upset about was what homegirl had told her, and even Nick and Vanessa were just like, "Why didn't you ever bring it up?" You know what I mean? Why didn't you ever have that conversation with him? And she, for some reason, was just like, oh, I don't know. And then it was one of those things where it's like, I hit the nail on the head yet again, where it was like, I had, on the Tuesday episode, if you go back and you listen to the Tuesday episode, and I talk about Anton and Allie, I say specifically, name a time where Anton and Allie had a serious conversation about their relationship. I'll wait. And the reunion vindicated the fuck out of that statement for me. And it was true, because literally they were just like, did you guys ever have, a conversation about your relationship? Did you guys ever have a conversation about what the future is going to look like? Your relationship, your marriage, like, did you guys ever have like really meaningful conversations about this stuff? And Allie was just like, no, not really. And, that's kind of what led me to kind of ultimately say no, because she couldn't see what a marriage would be like with him. She couldn't see what his future plans were, where he wanted to be in the next couple years or whatever the case may be. And, it was so bullshit how she was just kind of like, oh no, my friend's talking about his job and him being a truck driver and all that was not, that didn't influence me in saying no. And everybody's just like,
stop the cap.
Come on, bruh. Like, that's a lie. Like, of course it wasn't the main reason. It wasn't the main reason she said no at the altar, but it was a reason. It definitely was a reason. And I know it was a reason. We all know it was a reason because we saw it in 4K, bruh. We just did. It is what it is. Like, at the end, when she said no, all right, and then walked off and was crying or whatever, she then got back to the little dressing room and did that kind of interview or whatever. And she was just like, oh, I've dated potential before and I just can't do it again. You know what I mean? And it's like, bro, you're obviously referencing what happened at the bachelorette party. Like, you know what I mean? So it did play a part. Like, don't sit there and lie like money didn't play a part in it. It did. And kudos to Anton. He's got him a new girl, and I guarantee you that girl, she looks at it like, hey, I don't mind if he's a truck driver for the rest of his life. That's a good ass job. He makes good money. I'm all about it. You know what I mean? Like, bro. And then, they were asking Allie, oh, are you seeing anybody? And she's like, oh, I just want to keep it private. No, you want to keep it private because no nigga wants to fuck with you. All right, they saw you were a gold digger in 4K and they don't want to fuck with you, bro. That's what it is. Let's be honest here. They saw you were a gold digger in 4K. Ain't nobody want to fuck with you. Sorry. You know what I mean? You got all that plastic surgery and then fake titties for nothing. You know what I mean? Like, come on, bro. Like, let's just be honest here. Good luck to the guy that does marry her. I'm sure there's going to be a dude that will. I ain't going to lie to you. Yeah, will. Because even when she said no and was crying and all this and all that, I was even saying to myself while watching it, I was just like, man, and you can't even say like, she ain't gonna get no man because there's gonna be a simp nigga that's gonna do it, but then as I started seeing more things come out about, Anton and Allie and their relationship and stuff like that, everybody kind of agrees that she was a gold digger. That's just what it was, And so I'm sure over the time she hasn't really met nobody. And I said it best. Her relationship with Anton is the last relationship that she's ever going to have that will be that deep and in depth. Like, no other guy, and I mean, I'm sorry, no other guy is going to want to get to know you to the level that Anton did. Even though you guys didn't have like deep, meaningful conversations and all that kind of stuff, Anton still got to know you and your personality first, and then saw that you were pretty. But every other guy is just going to see you as pretty and not care about you and your personality. They're just not. They're going to be like, damn, she got a great body and some big titties. Like, that's it. That's all they're going to care about. If I'm being 1000% with you. And if I'm being honest with you, her answer to that question of, are you seeing anybody? It proves it. It does. It proves it. Because I guarantee you, all the guys that she's been interested in, I guarantee you none of them, and I mean none of them, got to know her personality or her the way that Anton did. And that's probably the reason why none of those relationships worked out, because a lot of these guys look at her like, she a gold digger. I'm just trying to fuck anyway. I don't really care. But for her, she looks at it like, well, I want to have a guy to get to know me and my personality first. And then, the looks and all that kind of stuff come later. But she's just not going to get that. She's just not. And it is what it is. Okay, on to Nick and Allie. This is where that fucking Kate bitch comes in. Nick, you're a bitch, bro. You're a bitch. You did not need to apologize to that Kate bitch again. You apologized to that bitch twice already. All right? This is what I would have done if I was Nick. I would have just been like, you know what, Kate? I'm done apologizing to you. I'm done apologizing to you. I've already apologized to you twice, and you just think that I'm cold and calculated and that I have these ulterior motives, and you just don't want to accept my apology. It is what it is. You don't want to accept my apology? Cool. That's totally fine. But I'm done apologizing to you. All right? Because obviously you don't care. You're never going to accept my apology. You don't care about me. You don't care about anybody else but yourself, and that's fine. It is what it is. You're mad because I didn't choose you. You're mad because you thought you were going to get chosen, and then you didn't. You know what I mean? And then you expect Annie to be on your side, and she's not even on your side. Because then she comes in, and she's just like, oh, well, actually, I agree with Nick, because I had 2 relationships where, they were hot and they were heavy and everything comes at you all at once, and you're in this pod, you're in this experiment, it's only 10 weeks, and you're connecting with these people on such an intimate level. Of course you're going to say, I love you, and I would argue, Megan did the same thing. Megan did the exact same thing. Megan told that other dude, I can't remember his name right now, Mike, told Mike that, hey, I'm in it with you. I'm locked in with you. I want to be with you. Go back in the pods. Watch that shit. Guarantee you. But yeah, she said, I'm locked in with you. And then she turned around, went with Jordan. So was Megan being, manipulative? Was she being, performative? Was she you know what I mean? Was she being cold and calculated? I don't think so. I think it was a simple thing where she had a lot of feelings for this Mike dude, but she knew this is normally what I go for, and they don't work out. Jordan is a great guy, and I have all these feelings for him. Let's make, Jordan work out, and let's see where this goes. And that's all Nick did. Nick looked at it like, Kate is great, and she's amazing, but, and I do love her. I think that Nick actually did love Kate. And when he said it, he did mean it, but it was a simple thing of like, then he got into the pods with Annie and was just like, dude, my connection with Annie is literally just that step I need to take it further. Annie was the 51 while Kate was the 49. But see, she can't get past her own little hubris for some reason because she thinks she's so hot and this and that. And it's like, bitch, you're not as hot as you think you are. That's why you're single as a Pringle and ain't nobody trying to fuck with you in your shitty ass hubris. Let's be honest here. All right? That's just what it is. So, again, that's why I kind of think it's one of those things where it's just like, for her, I wouldn't have apologized to her. I wouldn't have. I'd have just been like, bro, I get it. I would have let her have it too. You know what I mean? And she can snap back all she wants, but what I'm saying is the truth and you're just in your feelings. You know what I mean? It is what it is. Like, bro already apologized to you. And even when he did apologize and she gave that fake ass acceptance, oh, no, yeah, I respect you for that. But like, what if he's not? It just sounds performative. Like, oh my God. Bruh. Get out of here, bro. Like, nobody cares. And that's what I'm saying. Annie, though, when they had questioned her about the relationship and they were just like, when you were going through all of that and, your I love yous and all this kind of stuff, like, what was it that, had you going crazy and doing what you're doing? And, she was just like, well, the relationship had a lot of ups and downs, and she even said it herself that the show kind of made it seem like their relationship wasn't as bad as it actually was, because they apparently, I guess, off camera, they had a lot more fights than we saw on camera. And so, they were dealing with a lot more than just what they were dealing with. I guess we only really saw the good and niceness of what was going on with their relationship. I think they both agreed that on camera, you know what I mean? I think they put their little fights away, and then they kind of just were like, yeah, we love you all. Everything's hunky dory, and then off camera is probably when they really had their fights, because once we got to the last fight where, Nick is just like, bro, I can't do this with you no more. I think it was because all of those off-camera interactions and fights and ordeals that they were dealing with, and we didn't even know. I didn't even know. I was blown away at that information, if I'm being honest with you. The fact that, she had said that. But I do get it. She was just like, I wanted to believe that, we were going to be something and we were going to make it into something and this was going to be something great, and I wanted to push for that. And I give it to Annie. I really do. But if I'm being honest with you, it just doesn't change the fact that you were projecting. It doesn't change the fact that you were kind of just being very overbearing. It was just, I can see why Nick was doing what he was doing. I'm surprised they didn't ask him about the gay thing. I'm surprised they didn't ask him about the gay allegations. You know what I mean? Like, I'm so surprised they didn't ask him about that, because that's been a hot topic. Everybody talks about Nick as being gay, and I'm just like, I just don't see it. I think he's just, again, a metrosexual guy. But again, like I said, I digress on that. But yeah, so that was them. And then we get into the last one, and I think they saved this one because it was the best one, and that was Edmund and KB. And at the end of the episode that we did on Tuesday last week, I was saying I don't know why KB stayed, because she knew that she didn't want to marry this nigga after Mexico. All right. And she kind of confirmed that, kind of didn't. Okay. And the way she kind of confirmed it was the fact that she was already very irritated from, these are her words, obviously I'm paraphrasing, but these are her words. She said she was already irritated with him about stuff that happened in Mexico, and she was trying to talk to him about it in the car, and he didn't want to talk to her about it, or he wasn't being receptive, because she was like, oh, I don't like it when you cry. And so then, that's when she was like, oh, instead of crying, he became kind of a butthole. And so, and then he's like, oh, KB, I don't remember that. And he's just like, bro, we were in the same car, were we not? So that confirmed it for me, that the fact that after Mexico, she already knew she wasn't going to marry that man. She already knew. That confirmed it for me. That story right there, obviously we didn't see it on camera, but the fact that she was sharing that story, it told me, yes, it confirmed exactly what I was saying, that after Mexico, she did not want to marry him. Why she stayed though, I ain't gonna lie to you. KB, you a queen. I ain't gonna cap. You a queen for that one. She looked at it like, yeah, I may feel that way now, to where I'm like, I don't want to marry this man, but I got into this commitment and I want to see it through, because he could, in these next few weeks, prove to me that he can be the husband that I'm looking for. You know what I mean? And I look at that and I think to myself, dang, that's very admirable of her. She didn't just give up because shit got hard or she didn't like what she saw. Nah, she looked at it like, nah, I made this commitment and I want to see it through. I want to see if he can be the man that I need to be. But again, Edmund just dropped the ball time and time again. And, you know, again, it really speaks to what I was saying about Edmund, where he lacks empathy. He just doesn't have it. And I get it. It's because of his upbringing. You know, he was in the foster care system, moved around all the time, went from family to family. He didn't really have family like that. He was always looking over his shoulder. You know, his whole childhood life, he was only looking out for him. So he didn't really have time to, you know, understand other people's emotions and you know, feel what other people are feeling and stuff like that. He was too busy surviving and doing his thing and doing what he had to do. And I give it to him, but it's like, bro, you're an adult now and you kind of need to start figuring out these emotions and understanding these emotions, or else you're really not going to be with any woman. I laughed extremely hard when that nigga was rubbing his eyebrows though. He was just like, KB. I was like, this nigga's stupid, bro. He was just like, KB. Oh. I'm like, what is he doing? That nigga's crazy, bro. Oh my God. And that's what I mean when I say I have that love-hate relationship for him. Because sometimes he be doing some shit and you just be like, bro, what are you doing? And then he'll do some shit like that and it's just funny. Oh man, that nigga's stupid. But again, like I said, when he was having those conversations, you could tell he, even in that moment, you know, a year and a half later after everything is, you know, been done, he got to watch it back, all that kind of stuff. He still lacks empathy. He still lacks that empathy, and I think he still lacks it really hard, you know, and that's just something he's going to have to work on. And I think that's the only thing he really has to work on, because if he does work on that, you know, he will be able to correct other little behaviors that he did, you know, with KB and stuff like that. And I give it to him. You know, I understand he's the type of guy where he's just like, oh, you know, I just want to make sure I don't ever do it again. And if I do something wrong, I don't ever want to do that again to you and this and that, blah, blah. And, you know, he comes from a great place, you know, and that's why I don't have anything really bad to say about Edmund. You know, he comes from a great place. And, you know, when he was just like, if it wasn't for this experiment, I wouldn't ever find a girl like you. And I was just like, oh, bruh. That one touched my heart. I ain't gonna lie to you. That one touched my heart. I was like, dang, bro. Because I know how it is, you know what I mean? To, like, you get a good woman and, you know, you try every single thing you can to just keep that good woman, because you're like, damn, man, I love this one. And all I want her to know is just how much I love her and how much I want to be with her. You know what I mean? Everything. Like, I would do everything and anything for her. And I get it. You know what I mean? You do get to those moments. But at the same time, it's just when she needed him most, that's just where it was. He couldn't step up to the plate. And I called it. You know what I mean? I called it. I knew that's what was going down, and I knew that's what it was the entire time. Hit the nail on the head, like I said, with every single one of these goddamn couples. And the reunion just vindicated everything. So that's it. That's the reunion. You know, a bit of my thoughts, recapping, all that good stuff. Again, if I'm being honest with you, the reunion was a little lackluster. I ain't gonna lie to you. I think it was one of those things because I was able to kind of just break it all down and easily see everything that was going on, before it really even happened. That's why last week's episode, honestly, I didn't really have to do the recap of the reunion. I tried to live stream it and react to it live, just so that way I wouldn't have to do this on the Tuesday, but obviously it didn't work. So, that didn't work. Oh, well, it is what it is. But yeah, man, that's that. So, again, you guys let me know what you think about, season 9, the reunion, the episodes, all that kind of stuff. Get down there in the comments, have a conversation with your boy, all that good stuff. Cause yeah, like I said, I think it was it wasn't as juicy as other reunions, you know what I mean? I wish they got on Joe's head a little more, but it is what it is, man. You know what I mean? This obviously was shot a long time ago. This was shot in the beginning of 2024. So, you know what I mean? This is like damn near a year and a half or so ago. So a lot of things, you know what I mean? I'm sure were misconstrued, wires were crossed, stories were changed. Shit like that. So, you know what I mean? They can't remember everything. But that is that. Again, let me know what you think and all your opinions and all that good stuff. We're going to hop through announcements and then we'll get into some scenarios. We got some time for some scenarios. So patreon.com/Am I the Asshole podcast. Get an exclusive episode every single Friday. As well as being able to send in your scenario to be featured on the Tuesday and Sunday show. All right. So, Patreon members and audio listeners and all that. If you guys want to get a part of the Patreon and you don't necessarily want to watch or listen to the episodes on Patreon, don't worry. As long as you are a 7-day free trial member or a full paid member of Patreon, you can listen to our entire Patreon discography all on Spotify, ready for you to go. There is a separate link in the description of every single episode. There is a link in there. It'll say Patreon Spotify link. You click that, and as long as you're a 7-day free trial member or you are a 7-day free trial member or you're a full paid member, then you have access to those episodes. All right. So that is dope. I do hope that, you guys come on in here and hang out and all that good stuff. Audio listeners, thank you guys for so much support, man. You guys have been killing it. Absolutely killing it. This month is our second highest download month of the entire year, which has been insanity. You guys are killing it. You're killing it, man. So thank you so much for all the support. Please keep coming back every week and downloading the episodes. Thank you, and rating us 5 stars on your preferred platform. And you know what's great about that is it's absolutely free, and it helps out the show tremendously. And if you want to help out even more on the free 99 side of things, follow us on Instagram, TikTok, as well as subscribing on YouTube, because subscribing on YouTube and following us on TikTok, you can also catch our live streams. We live stream every Friday, Sunday, and Monday. Last Friday, we did Hunting the Hunter. We started a new book, so we're pretty much going to be doing 3 books, so that's going to be crazy. This week, we'll probably continue it on Sunday, not Friday. I did it on Friday just because the book released, and I wanted to do it on Halloween and all that kind of stuff, so that's why we did it on Friday last week, but we're going to be continuing it on Sunday for this week, so keep an eye out for that. But we also, play some horror games. We have a good time. I try to make the streams as interactive as possible. We were playing one game where, the chat can influence the monster chasing me and all that kind of stuff. It's a lot of fun, man. Come out, hang out with us, talk to your boy, ask me whatever. I'm a pretty open book guy. So yeah, come out, hang out. We live stream on Twitch, Kick, Instagram. I'm sorry, not Instagram. Twitch, Kick, TikTok, YouTube, and I try to be everywhere for you guys, wherever you guys like to get your live streams. Okay. But that's going to be it for the announcements. Let's get right on into our first scenario. All right. So our first scenario is girlfriend of 5 years cheated on me. Damn. After 5 years together, my girlfriend cheated on me with a colleague. When I confronted her, she confessed she was already planning to leave me by the end of her internship because she was unsure about our future. Incredibly, she told me about that I should be glad it only happened once and that she never went back to him. Wait, what? Hearing her justification left me speechless and numb. I decided to end things and cut off all contact as soon as I did. She broke down crying, pleading for one last chance and promising to pull all her effort into our relationship. However, I'm not convinced. Since her confession, my mental health has deteriorated. I cannot sleep properly, and when I do, I sleep for 12 to 14 hours straight just to avoid waking up. I've lost my appetite and am unable to focus on my studies. For these reasons, I have decided to sever all communication permanently. If she could not only cheat, but also have the audacity to justify it that way, then in my opinion, there is nothing left to save. Oh, man. And we get a lot of these guys on the show. We really do. We get a lot of these dudes. And look, I'm going to say the same thing I've always said, my guy. What you did was great. You know what I mean? But now what you need to do is you need to start working on yourself. Stop sulking. Stop whining and crying and focus on what's important to you. Start building your life. Start the life of you. You know what I mean? Because don't get me wrong, when you're in a relationship, you kind of gear your life a little towards your partner. You try to make sure that, you guys' life align and stuff like that. And look, I get that 1000%. But you have to understand, you're at a point now in your life where you are single. You don't have to worry about her anymore. Fuck her, if I'm being honest with you. That's some bullshit. The fact that she's trying to justify the fact that, just be lucky that I only fucked him one time because I could have fucked him like 8 other times. So just be glad I only, fucked with him one time. That's crazy to me. Once is too many. You know what I mean? Like, what the fuck are you talking about, bitch? Once is too many. And then you have the audacity to cry and want me to take you back. If the roles were reversed, you wouldn't take me back. If I sat there and told you, oh yeah, I fucked this girl, be lucky I just fucked this girl one time and I could have fucked her like 8 other times, you wouldn't take him back. The fuck are you talking about? So why would you expect him to take you back? Stupid. Retarded. So like I said, I'm glad you did what you did. But like I said, you need to stop sulking and crying and whining and all that kind of shit. And you need to start, working on you. Because you need distractions. That's what it comes down to. You need distractions. You need to find your goal and your purpose and strive for that. And when you strive for that, guess what? You're going to be so goddamn busy that you ain't going to have time to think about her. Work extra hours, pick up extra days at work, get in the gym. If you don't do the gym, then, go on hikes. You know what I mean? Do things. You know what I mean? Like, or find a hobby, find something you love, whatever. Just occupy your time. A lot of people underestimate occupying their time after a breakup. Everybody thinks, oh no, you need to mourn and you need to heal and you need to, no. What you need to do is you need to occupy your time and occupy your time in things that grow you as a person. Because I guarantee you, if you start focusing on that and you stop focusing on the relationship and that of the past, you're gonna feel a lot better. You're gonna be in a better place. Your mental health is gonna be a lot better. Your physical health is gonna be a lot better. Your wallet's gonna be a lot better. Why? Because you're working extra. You're putting your time and energy into a side gig or hustle or whatever it may be, or even just a hobby. You know what I mean? Like, bro, like me. After me and my ex-fiance broke up and I started the podcast, I was so engrossed in the podcast and my work that I worked 7 days a week and I would go to the gym. You know what I mean? I went to the gym, I would go to work, I would film for the podcast, I would edit, do clips, all that kind of stuff, focusing on, new ways of changing up the podcast, the show, making the equipment better, all that kind of stuff. I was so focused on the podcast that I didn't have time to think about her. I didn't have time to think about our past relationship. I was working so much. And it's been a thing where it's like, now the podcast is 2 years old. It's at a point where I do make money from it. You know what I mean? I'm able to monetize it in small ways here and there, of course. But it is one of those things where it's just like, you got to understand that when you put your time into something, you just don't have time to think about or be sad. You just don't. You're just so go, go, go. And what's great about it is all this go, go, go. It makes you, when you lay down and you finally have that breather or that day off or whatever, all you're thinking about is just, dang, man, like me, for instance. When there were times when I wasn't doing the podcast, I wasn't working, or I wasn't going to the gym, and say I was just relaxing at home, it was never a thing where I'm like, oh man, now I have this time to sit here and think about my ex and all this stuff. No, honestly, I was thinking about the podcast, and I was thinking like, man, what else can I do to make the show better? What else can I do to change things up? And that's when I came up with live streaming. And then all this money I had been saving up, I was like, let me put it into something. So that's what I did. You know what I mean? I put all my money and my time and my research into, the live streaming and, getting it good for you guys and being able to, let you guys have gambling and, text to speech and all kinds of cool stuff. You know what I mean? I really put all my time and effort into that. Again, that's just how your mind is going to start running, because it's exactly what happened to me. I was distraught. That was a 5-year relationship. I was going to marry that woman, and, she left. That destroys men, but I didn't let it destroy me. I said, you know what? I'm going to channel this into something, productive. I'm gonna get in the gym. I'm gonna fucking start the podcast, be consistent with it. I'm gonna pick up extra hours at work and just be working constantly, and that's just what it was. I was never home, and when I was home, I was working and doing the podcast. I'm just saying, that's the type of mindset you need to put yourself in. A lot of these dudes, man, they sit there and they just sulk over these women that really don't care for them. And it's crazy to me. It's like, bro, if she cared about you, she wouldn't have fucked, Billy over there at work. She wouldn't have done it. She don't care about you. Move on, bro. Move on. You know what I mean? Because that's how I looked at it. I looked at it like, bro, we're about to get married. And if you're going to leave me before we're about to get married, well, that just shows me you don't care about me. So I'm not about to sit here and be sulking over a girl that don't give a fuck about me. Let's just be honest here. You know what I mean? I'm going to start something and make something of myself. And that's what I did. And that's what I think guys need to start doing, man. Please put your time into something. All right? Okay. You guys let me know what you think about that one in the comments. We're going to get on to our next one. Am I the asshole for rejecting my husband's attempts to spice up our bedroom life? Oh. Okay, I, 32 female, have been married to my husband, 33 male, for 3 years, together for 5. This is, okay. Our second son is about to be 1, and we've been having intimacy issues on and off since he was born. After our first son was born, we also had issues around the time he was 5 to 6 months old, but we were able to solve it with communication. The TLDR is that he felt like I didn't want intimacy enough, and he interpreted that to mean I wasn't attracted to him, and he got insecure. I informed him that I pushed a baby out less than 6 months prior and was still healing, as well as raising a baby, which is time consuming and exhausting, and that it had nothing to do with him, but that I would try to make him feel more wanted and remember to show him affection too. Yeah, girl, I mean, you could throw that man a BJ every once in a while. Like, come on now. Just because the coochie is under construction don't mean that mouth ain't ready to go. Come on now. Throw your man a couple BJs and he'll be alright. Yeah, guy, come on, man. Shit. That ended up working and we were fine. Flash forward to our second being born, and around that same time, actually maybe even more like 3 to 4 months, the same issue arose. I reminded him yet again that it had nothing to do with him and to allow me time to adjust. I also went back to work full time, so I added that to my plate on top of everything else, and that worked worked for a few weeks, but the issue came up again. And talked it over again, and I told him that I have tried multiple different ways to show him affection that aren't necessarily intimacy, holding hands, cuddling more, complimenting him, because that's not what he wants. He wants sex. He wants you to drain his nutsack. Like, what are we talking about, girl? Look, I get it. You feel like the intimacy is just holding hands and cuddling and being... Nah, bro. Intimacy for a man is draining his fucking nutsack. Like, what are you doing? Put your mouth on it. Like, come on, man. Throw your man a couple BJs and he'd be alright. This is crazy. The fact that the efforts weren't helping made me feel like if I put out, I'm not enough, and that and that the more this issue comes up, the less I want intimacy because I feel pressure to perform, and it's turning me off so much. Again, a few weeks of changed behavior and him chilling out, but then their past month, okay, sure. He's been buying bedroom toys, lingerie, and things to spice up the bedroom. I hate it. It makes me never want to be intimate with him again. He's buying stuff that just isn't me. Hot pink lingerie. I hate pink. BDSM necklaces. I don't like sub or dom stuff. Stuff to tie me up. I don't necessarily hate that, but I want to consent to it. I don't know what to do, but I also feel like I might be the asshole because he has needs too. Am I the asshole if I reject his efforts to improve our love life? Yeah, I think you are. I think you are because you're just not willing to compromise with him. You know what he wants, and then you sit there and you go give him exactly what he doesn't want. You're just like, oh, don't worry. Okay, you want intimacy? Don't worry, I got you, babe. I'll hold your hand more, and I'll cuddle with you, and all this. And you know that's not what he wants. You know that's not what he wants. You know this man wants his nuts drained. So why don't you throw him a couple BJs? Like, it ain't like you gotta, do it every day, but shit, a couple times a week, that'd be nice. Look, I get it. I'm all for the whole, you taking care of your kids and you guys are going through that. You know what I mean? Your vagina area is healing up because you just had a baby, all that. I get that 1000%. But again, you can't neglect your man's sexual needs. You just can't, because then for him, it's going to feel like, damn, like we're just fucking roommates at this point. Like, what the fuck's going on? Like, this sucks, because it's a thing where men get kind of used to being able to have sex with their girl and be able to do their thing. And, you guys are always trying new things and it's nice. And, your girl is she may not like it, but she's willing to try. She's willing to try some things. She's willing to see what's up. But the fact that you're just like, that lingerie is pink, I hate it. That's BDSM stuff, I'm not into that. That's a collar. I don't want that. It's just like, bro, at least try. At least try. Try something. Give me something. Like, as a man, that's so frustrating. I would be like, just try, woman. Anything. And then the fact that you're like, oh, I don't want to be intimate with him ever, that just goes to show me you don't love him anymore. You just don't. I don't know what it is that got you to that point where you don't love him anymore, but it's evident that you don't love him anymore. It just is. It's very evident that you don't love him anymore. And it sucks. It sucks to come to that realization. But I really do think that that's what it is that you just don't love him anymore. You may have love for him, but you aren't romantically in love with him anymore. That's really what it comes down to. It's going to be a hard pill to swallow. It's going to be a hard pill to understand. And I guarantee you at least a family member or a friend has probably already told you this, and you may not want to accept it. But I do think that you are just no longer romantically in love with this man anymore. Sure, you have love for him, but that does not mean you are in love with him. Because if you were still in love with him, you would at least try. I'm not saying you got to sit here and like the BDSM shit. I'm not saying you got to sit there and like the pink lingerie. I'm just saying you should try. If he is willing to compromise and say, all right, and give you space when you need space because you're just like, nah, babe, I'm busy. I just got off work and I got to take care of the baby. We got all this. And he's just like, no, don't worry about it. It is what it is. If he's willing to compromise because you guys communicated and you talked and he's willing to compromise and, pull back his needs a little bit, even though this man is probably jerking off ferociously. Like, let's be honest here. This nigga's jerking off ferociously, But he's willing to step back and say, you know what, she needs her space, she needs her time, it is what it is. I'll come back, a month or whatever, and we'll see where she's at. If he's willing to do, it sounds to me that he's willing to at least try to do what you're asking him to do, and you're not willing to try to do what he's asking you to do. You see what I mean? And he's doing that out of love. He's doing that because he loves you. And you're not willing to do it because you just don't romantically love him anymore. And that's just what it comes down to. It's very sad to say that. And I wish it wasn't that. But sadly, I think that's just what it is. You guys let me know what you think about it in the comments. As well as everything we gone over today. Love is Blind, all the scenarios, all that good stuff. But I'm going to go ahead and end today's episode right here. Thank you guys so much for watching, listening, all that good stuff. Again, Patreon.com/Am I the Asshole Podcast. An exclusive episode every single Friday, as well as being able to send in your scenario to be featured on the Tuesday and Sunday show like these lovely people did for today. Audio listeners, keep downloading the podcast. Love you guys so much. Appreciate all that. Follow us on Instagram, TikTok, as well as YouTube. Check out our live streams on Fridays, Sundays, and Mondays. Love you guys all, and peace.